Well, I guess if you want to go ahead and get started and just tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing, and then Eli's got the questions, and we can just kind of go off of that.
Perfect.
Right.
Okay. Well, as far as when you say what we're doing, would you like me to focus solely on the different options we have, or would you like to talk about also what they're doing within the schools, or just the options?
Probably the virtual options.
Okay. I sent that document with you, and I think that the biggest thing that I've noticed between the email and the questions, I think that there's a misconception of what the terminology is or what exactly we're offering. I think in the past, when you hear virtual, offsite, you think of homeschooling, or you think of naturally just the old-fashioned way of being on a computer, having to get all of your instruction that way. What we are doing in Russellville School District, and many districts are doing it, we're actually providing 3 different options for students. So there's the on-site traditional, there's what we call off-site, or option B, and then there's the virtual, which is option C. Now, the biggest difference between the on-site and option B. So option B is where we still use all of our Russellville School District teachers. You're getting the same exact instruction that an on-site student would get. The only difference being is that on-site students get a teacher who can give them real-time feedback, can adjust, can support them immediately. Whereas our option B, our offsite, they are getting, they can still contact with the teacher, but it may be through email. It may be at a later point when the teacher has a conference period that they can communicate, give a phone call or a Zoom meeting. It's a little different. So that's the main difference with those two. So it's the exact same instruction. You're dealing with our teachers. You just may not get you won't get real-time feedback unless the teacher opts to do a Zoom meeting or a live video of some form, but the child won't be penalized for that. So that's those 2 options. The third option, which is what you referenced, the virtual academy, and our Brine Swim is actually over that entire department. But what that is that's through virtual learning, or virtual academy, Virtual Arkansas and Lincoln Learning. So those are 2 of those programs, similar to what, that might be a common term for homeschool parents or those that have looked into that previously. But that is that third-party curriculum that we're purchasing. And we have so many slots for the students when it comes to Virtual Arkansas. But it's not our teachers, it's teachers that have been designated by the state for that program. And so they still are considered part of the Russellville School District, and they can still access our activities or the different extracurriculars because they're part of our school district. They're just not utilizing our teachers necessarily. We have a support system built in the school to where there is a liaison that kind of touches base with them, but it's not our curriculum. That's really the biggest difference between those. I don't know if you want to go through each of your questions that you had, or you want me to just to kind of gradually talk about those. Like I noticed the counselor question, do students have access to that and extracurriculars? Do you guys just want to ask?
If you want to go through those question lists, you can do that.
Okay. So the one that you talked about, let's see, how flexible can parents be with a virtual learning routine? Something that we've discussed as staff members, as educators. I mean, there's so many different outlets that we have right now since the entire nation is going through this. So really, as far as what we can tell parents to do, flexibility is really up to the parent and what is best for their child. I know that Russellville School District is really focused on that social emotional learning of the students. Right now, these kids have come through so many things, they have experienced so many different things. So they really need to have a connection or just some way of focusing with the teacher or with that content. So I know that that's a huge component, and part of that is being flexible. So if you're an option B student, you have that flexibility. They've extended to where you have a 24-hour turnaround with assignments, different things like that. I know with our option C students, with Virtual Arkansas, there's 2 different paces. There's a teacher pace where they go through a 24-hour rotation. They stay with the teacher, and throughout the 9 weeks, they have to finish a module before they can move on to the next one. But then there's also a flex pace where they give all the assignments and the student has a semester to essentially complete it. So there's that kind of difference in there. Our option B students, the ones where it's connected with our teachers, they will make sure that the teachers don't make it to where you have to log into this specific time or you have to be there. If my class is from 8:30 to 9:30, you don't have to be sitting there doing the assignment at that time. That way it gives that flexibility for parents that where if I'm working or if I'm having to take care of multiple kids that are going through this, I can do that based off of what my child needs. If they need a break, I can do that. But I get that flexibility of what's best for my family at that time.
Oh.
So then I know that you guys, let's see, you have to help me out if there's a question in particular you're looking for, just kind of reading through there. You know, some of the questions you guys said, could parents work from home, have their kids do virtual learning in the evenings? Answered that one, absolutely. How many hours a day will kids need to complete the lessons? You know, I talked to a parent just today, and they said they were able to, their child was able to get through one particular subject in, you know, a 15-minute time. And then the next subject, they're able to just knock it out. And that was one that they really enjoyed, or it may have been just something that was to where the child had experience to where they could get through that. And it really just depends on the child. But as far as what we consider as educators, we don't want the child sitting there for hours at an end being in front of a screen, or to where they're just so overwhelmed by the materials that are presented to them. So it really just kind of depends on the child themselves. And again, it just kind of depends on which one you're looking at, option B or C. Virtual Arkansas and Lincoln Learning, we don't have as much control over, okay, well, this is what you have to teach. This is what the next lesson, this is the next one. We can provide the support, but option B, we have a little bit more control because we are designing that curriculum and helping support that child. So it kind of varies on that.
Eli, was there any questions on there that you wanted to ask on that sheet?
Let's see. Sorry, I was muted. I want to make sure I unmuted before I talked. I haven't scanned through them super well. Let's see.
You have one on here about the choose. They've selected it for the semester or advice for the students. Between our three options, so option B is a 9-week commitment that we've given them. So we've asked families to give us a 9-week commitment. We understand that things happen to where a parent may have to go to work now, like their job opportunities have changed, that they need to get their child back in, you know, on-site learning. There may be something extreme going on that they need that. We're very flexible with that, but we are asking so that we can help kind of guide that with the kids and making sure that our teachers can handle, you know, it's not students just going in today and then out tomorrow. We are asking families to commit to in 9 weeks. With the third option I told you about, that virtual option, that's a semester commitment. And again, that's because it's a different curriculum. So students have to they have to be structured where, all right, we may not be on that exact same page. So if a child just jumped in, there may be things that they covered already or that they were behind in. So it's to help kind of gauge at the semester. But to be honest with you, as far as giving them advice on how to deal with that as a semester, I think they just need to take it one day at a time, just like we would with education here in the public school system. You know, they have to try to find something that they enjoy from it, and just to, you know, take it on, like, they don't, not to feel too overwhelmed.
We do have another person on. I can't hear them, so I don't know if they have any questions. I've asked to unmute them, and it's not. Did you have any questions for Sarah?
No, I'm just listening. My 3-year-old's being loud, so I put stay muted.
I understand that.
If you do have a question, you can. There's a way where you can raise your hand, or you can just type it in, and I will see it, and then I can ask it for you.
Okay, thank you.
Looking at some of the questions, and again, it really just depends on what the parent's choosing between that B and C option. I think B, the biggest thing for parents now is that they can, if they wanted to be at home naturally, that homeschool environment, they now have more available options that we have through Russellville School District. You know, with having that B now, they didn't have that before, where they could be connected to our classroom teachers and to have that instruction. So it does provide those parents with a little bit more of an idea. I don't know what the plan is after COVID as far as continuing those options, right. But obviously if there was success to this, or if there were teachers that were like, you know, I feel like I could take on these group of kids, or if there was positive feedback, I know that our district wants what's best for our kids. And so if that was something that we could really continue, I'm ready for us to be through COVID so that we can actually have those kind of conversations. But, you know, that's something there that they may continue to look at for them. But let's see, I'm trying to read through your questions without taking too long, but
One I did want to bring up. I know we're all hoping for COVID to just go away and get past this, but just trying to think pragmatically and plan for possibilities in the event that the schools do have to close down again. How would that work? Will everybody have to switch over to either B or C, or will it be kind of like it was at the end of last year? What's the plan for that?
that is the first thing I think that every parent across the state of Arkansas says, is it going to be like last spring? And, first of all, number one, that was a very quick having to design this concept that nobody anticipated. It was a very extreme situation. So I think that it was the best that the state could do as far as, what is this pandemic? What does that mean? How can we safely get teachers into an area and support them? So there was just so many components. I mean, I was blown away as an educator. I assumed that majority of people have access to internet or know where to find that Wi-Fi, such as a public library, for example. Many families had no idea, where can I access free Wi-Fi? Where can I do this? How could this work for my kids? And I mean, I have 4 different kids that are 4 completely different age ranges. So I understand that my teenager could sit in a car and get his assignments done. My first grader could not comprehend that. Well, she's second grade now, but could not comprehend that or sit still for that long. So it's, that's a big challenge. So they were trying to do its best, but as far as what would happen and what that would look like, something that I've talked with our school psych, the director of school psych, she and I were discussing possibly having a cohort of teaching kids, and that's what the teachers are working on right now. And those option B kids, they're working with all their kids to talk about, how do we access Google Classroom? How would I save my documents? How would I make sure if I want to send the teacher? So that's what we've asked for the first 3 weeks of school, that they're really focusing on ensuring that kids know how to access these things, as well as kind of working on that social emotional learning I've talked about earlier. We know that that's vital. In regards to that cohort, something that I think the teachers are moving to as soon as they can get through, just general access of how to, the kids to use things. They're going to talk to them about, what does a discussion look like online? How do we do that? And, you think about having these kind of discussions here, we all know to stop and wait, but how many times have you been in a Zoom meeting where everyone says something at the same time, or the chat's going 90-0 and the person's trying to read it and it's very challenging? So then imagine that with students. It could get very fun. So they're definitely going to prioritize that. The classes are trying to focus on, what does this look like if we, go home, if we were quarantined? Because the goal is that we will just continue going as if we never change the location. Those option B kids, nothing will change for them, other than the fact that their classroom, the entire class is now at home. That may change the expectation as far as the teacher has to do some type of visual activity, like is required to do. I don't know yet. We're kind of trying to be optimistic, but yet we're discussing that and seeing we're trying to develop a plan for sure. But as far as for them, nothing will really change for option B. Option C, that won't change either, because they're doing, again, that third party curriculum. So their setting it will not adjust at all, because they're just doing exactly the same thing they were doing before. But it will be different if we were to go back. It will definitely, I can guarantee that the expectation is to be different than what it was in spring. Just trying to ensure the parents that we have got to learn. These kids, have gone through enough time to where they've had, I wouldn't call it summer break, because it really wasn't. When you're having to be stuck at home with your mother, for example, with my children, they wouldn't call that summer break. But, genuinely, they haven't been in a classroom setting for a very long time. So they're going to make sure to guarantee that education going on.
Does the school districts, do the schools have Wi-Fi access, or like if parents can pull up in the parking lot to
Yes.
like download stuff?
Yes, every school building has access to where, if you're going to the parking lot, our students can go through their school email address and access the internet. Not a problem at all. And they just have to have that username and login. So even if I was a parent and, like I said, I have multiple children, let's say that my younger child forgot her username and password, I'm not encouraged to use my older sons, but I could still do it. So it's not like I have to have the kid to remember everything, like as long as I try to work with them. But definitely they could use that and access it. our district, Dr. Gocher has really been working with a group that trying to figure out what can we do in addition to that. Do we need to give USB some way to where that they could get that access, get that material, get on the internet, and then that way they could go home and access those things and type on whatever they need to do. Do they need to have buses in different areas and try to put Wi-Fi? They're trying to see all the different things that we as a district can do to support our community while at the same time being what's practical and manageable, because that's kind of, I think, the worst thing is when you give something and you get accustomed to it and then you take it away unexpectedly, and it's like, okay, well, I didn't know how to make a plan for that, which is what we're all getting really good at lately. But I mean, really, when you offer a resource and you got a good rhythm with your kids, and then to that to be taken back because you can't manage it, that's something we want to avoid as much as we can. So that's what we're working on to try to get a really good plan to support.
And I know we're working on making a resource list of areas and places that have free Wi-Fi that you can access from parking lots as well. And there's really not just a whole lot of places, you know, you can go inside like the restaurants and stuff. Some of those have it, but to access it from the parking lot, we're finding it's hard to find places.
Well, and if you will reach out to our public relations media specialist, Rachel Jones, she's actually compiling the same thing.
Okay.
She's working on, and she's reaching out to different companies and trying to see exactly what can be offered as far as really just for families to go and access their internet, so that to where they don't have to have the inconvenience of sitting in the store feeling like they have to buy something because it only works in the building. She's trying to find where are more locations for our families.
Okay.
I know that I believe it was the state, they ended up sending an email, and I have to share it with her too, but there's a resource out there where you can actually type in the town and the state, and they can show you all the Wi-Fi locations. That was something that we had looked at not even that long ago, and so I promised her I'd share that too, but as soon as I get that resource, I'll share it out with you as well. But it was a convenient thing. I mean, again, may not have lots of answers as far as availability, but at least you could type in a town and find something.
Okay, that'll be good.
That's actually really cool. I didn't know about that. So that's awesome.
I'm
Like a
telling you,
Wi-Fi map.
we are getting really good, kind of like what you're talking about, having those resources out there for families. I think everyone's getting really good at finding things, and again, making sure that they're actually credible, but you know, finding information so that we can share it out. So that's kind of a positive that's come out of all this. Some of the things that I noticed here, you talked about communication for virtual learning parents. You know, again, I keep saying that with the B and the C, but for B kids, you know, the best communication is emailing or making phone calls. If you think about a traditional sense of a teacher, every teacher has a planning period or conference period, they may call it, where it's a designated time to where they can work on, they don't have any students, they can work on assessments, they can work on calling back parents or making emails. And that would be times when they would even schedule meetings if they needed to. So that every one of those B kids have that same opportunity where they can schedule a time if an email's not working, or if they need a phone call, the teacher can set up to where like, yep, I can call you tomorrow from this time to this time. Are you available? May not always be the best time for parents, but it's kind of that traditional sense that if you needed a phone call right then and there, this is when they offer it during the day. I know many of our parent or teachers still call families after school. They do have a set of time that they are before and after school that we don't have students. It's limited because, you know, they're contracted for so long, but they do have that little bit of window so that they can reach out to families. But I know they're very heavily on email and trying to meet with kids as far as virtually. Those option C kids, something that I think is wonderful is that our district has many teachers that we're going to offer for support. I told you that it was a third-party curriculum, but something that they're trying to do with like Lincoln Learning, for example, they have different instructional facilitators and the director over those virtual learners, that C group, that they will be available to where they can assist if there's any questions. So if a student's doing the content or trying to answer the content they don't understand, they now have a person to like just kind of check in like, hey, I don't understand what they're saying. Could you explain it to me? And they're specialized in their field, or they you know, have a background in that content area. Elementary is the same thing. It's kind of nice to where families can know like, okay, this is a person that I can contact, and they'll help them kind of problem solve through those steps. Like if they needed to actually get a hold of Virtual Arkansas or Lincoln Learning Software, kind of get some clarity on there. So it's nice to have a partner in all of it. I don't know if it was recording when I said the thing about the extracurriculars, that option B and option C both have they're able to, access our extracurricular activities. So any clubs or athletics or band or choir, they can still be a part of that. Just like they would before, homeschool students were always allowed to access those resources. So that's something that, again, option B and C, you still have those abilities to do that.
I didn't know that the homeschools had access to the school system like that.
If they're part of our school district. So if they live in our area, if they're part of our school district. Now, if I was let's say I lived in the Atkins area and I was not affiliated with Russellville School District, I couldn't access the Russellville Athletics program. And I know Dr. Gocher has, I think it was the last school board meeting, he gave some clarity on that. But there are certain parameters that you have to follow with it. But if you're in that Russellville area, the nice thing of being option B and C, you're part of our district. There's no question on it. So if you were an option C parent, which is that virtual, traditionally homeschool mindset, you get access to it. You're part of our district. You're still that RSD district. You still get the same comfort that you had as far as being your own kind of cohort, but you're part of that. So you definitely do. And like I said, there are some parameters to it, but yes, they get access to it.
That's good to know.
Let's see.
Are there any other questions on there, Eli?
It really didn't want to unmute me. Sorry. So one that I see on here, do you have any recommendations for ways that virtual learners can safely socialize with their peers? We're in a time of social distancing and, keeping away, but that's really important for kids, is to learn all those socialization skills and just, be able to interact with other kids. So do you have any suggestions, recommendations, or ideas for what they can do while still keeping that distance?
To be honest with you, the option C, I'm sorry, I'm reading the screen that it said you extended it by them. But that option C, it's that traditional home sense that you are completely just not necessarily getting in that classroom. You are having that third party curriculum. So there's not much more I can give on that as far as support, other than just guidance that I would naturally say to get involved in. But as far as option B, our teachers can't give away names, but when you're in that Google Classroom, you get to see your peers of your class. You get to have discussion with them. That's something that we're encouraging teachers to just attempt and to try, and to try to find opportunities to where the kids can interact with each other, depending on the level of the teacher's comfort and how fast they want to jump into this. They may begin by saying, okay, I'm going to partner you up in these 4 students, and it may be a mix of their B kids and C kids, they're on-site and off-site. And that's kind of the wonderful thing about our option B, which are the off-site. We didn't just say, well, you're assigned to a teacher. We actually gave them specific periods that they're there. So it may be that these off-site kids are part of my third period. Now I can give them that material. They still have that flexibility of getting it done. They don't necessarily have to be in a live meeting. But the nice thing is, number one, if they were to come back, they get to pop right into that period. So there's no confusion there. But number two, if a teacher wanted to say, this is my class group, this is my third period, they could still blend those option B kids and their on-site kids. So they could kind of group them. In addition, the students can message each other and say, look, on Google Classroom, saying, hey, I need some help with this. What do you think I could do for that? Can I see your slideshow, which you did? They can reach out to each other that way. So just encouraging that, and to just, I know kids are shy naturally, but just to have that opportunity of kind of reaching out to someone and going, oh, hey, I know that kid. This is so-and-so's my friend. Kind of, hey, what did you do for this? I don't understand this activity. Just kind of reaching out, and naturally what we tell a student if they're on site, kind of taking that leap of like, okay, well, let me try to at least see if they'll help me out, or if we can talk to each other about this. And then that might naturally build a friendship through that. It's not extreme changes. It's not extreme guidance. I did talk with like I said, Dr. Kyla Warnick, and I have her contact information that I'll happily share with you. And she is looking at a way, which I think is wonderful. She's getting all the school psychs to get a list of all of their B and C kids and try to find out a way to where they can do a health assessment or a mental assessment. She called it really fancy words. I could say it and find it, but they're basically going to look at what do these students need. They're going to reach out to those kids, whether it's a Zoom meeting or a phone call, but kind of see, okay, where are we struggling at? What is it our child needs? And having those conversations with those parents saying, you know, what are you noticing? I noticed one of the questions you had on here was about behavioral, different supports like that. But she has actually got, she's creating a list of things of what parents can do to help their students if they're noticing these behavioral things, just a reach, like where the parents can reach out to a particular number. I explained that referral program that she has or the form on our district. It's a back to school website to where the parent can actually fill that out saying like, my child is struggling with this. This is what we're experiencing, and it's confidential and it'll go to her. I believe she said that there's a video even explaining how that process works to help parents. So they'll do a screener and then they'll try to get them some support that way. So that might be some suggestions that they could give them of, hey, how my kid just feels disconnected. They don't feel like they have any friends because they're at home. What can I do? You now have an actual professional who has a degree in this going, okay, here's a great resource. Here's an idea we can do. And kind of, again, feel like you have that partner. So, which I think is
definitely
pretty
share that with me. Any of the resources that we can help get out to the parents, because we see a lot of kids come in here, so, and they may not be getting it from school, but they can definitely pick it up from here. So.
Oh, absolutely.
And just for the record, I super love Kyla Warnick. She's awesome. I worked with her a little bit before, and that's so cool that she's doing that. That's really great.
She's great.
So.
She is such an asset. You know, and you guys asked a question about, you know, opportunities they're providing for special ed. I even talked, Russellville's so blessed to have so many different people or directors that are over things. And so we have someone who is solely over ESL. And that is what she does. She looks at, you know, what resources she's providing, reaching out to them so that they have opportunities to communicate with different specialists and things that they need, trying to give them additional support. We have, you know, the special ed designee, and I have all these numbers for you so that you guys can have access to them. But it's soon to be Dr. Brittany Turner. She's wonderful, and just some of the things that they've been introducing rocket books to kids. They've been trying to get revamp what modifications are we giving to these kids. Something that worked in the on-site classroom may not work, you know, off-site. So they're looking at whether it's a larger screen, you know, adjusted keyboards. Like they're trying to find different ways to help the kids. We have a GT coordinator. She's over all of those, you know, if a child, she discusses and works with our advanced courses, our AP courses, just different ways to help support our kids. And like I mentioned before, we have someone that's over our virtual option kids, those C kids, to where kind of just making sure that they have some type of point of contact. They're a smaller number that we have. Majority of our student enrollment, if they're doing something off-site, it's that option B. That's what we've noticed, because they do want to still be connected somehow with our teachers, and that sense of school, like being a part, like I have a different period teacher, and just to where they feel like they have a person behind it. So I know that we're working very hard on trying to get these things going. So
It sounds like everything's falling into place where it should, and not too many glitches, I guess.
well, and I think too, it's that the reality is that we're trying to have grace for the situation. I mean, we're all going through so many different changes, and parents are just trying to do what's right for their kids, and they don't know. You know, I'm well versed in what's going on, and I say well versed, but I'm more informed about, you know, the different components of education, what's going on. Like if some kind of extreme change happens, whether that's a statewide or it's a district-wide, I get informed, well, because I work for the district. You know, whereas a parent who does not work for the district, they may not know. They just want to know, and they want to make sure that their child feels like things are what quote unquote normal, or that they, you know, I know that the biggest struggle I've heard from parents is that their child does not understand why they can't come to school. They don't understand, and they feel almost a sense of guilt for choosing option B. And, you know, And that's unfortunate because it's hard to tell a child why they can't come and hang out with their friends when they think that, they don't quite get the whole concept of what's going on. But we're trying to do everything we can so that the children can feel supported and to feel like they're part of a school system, while at the same time supporting our teachers who are also human beings going through all these changes, and they're also having these stressors of things. And so how can we have a happy medium and try to work together to get to somewhere? I tell my teachers all the time that, my goal for you is to simply look at where you're at and say, okay, did I grow? 9 weeks from now, did I grow from where I started as far as my, how well versed I'm in technology, what I'm offering my option B kids? If you're growing, then that's all we can expect of you. If you're kind of staying stagnant because you're not attempting to try things or trying to get to, push yourself as an educator, that may not be the best practices. So I think that that's something that just having that conversation and just people being understanding of that and just patient that we're trying very hard to help everyone. And sometimes we're going to stumble. And I think that our district will admit that, if something is okay, this didn't work, we're going to try to revamp this. But I think just as long as parents and families just keep remembering that we're really trying to make sure that everyone feels like they're doing this somewhat successfully, I guess I should say that. But yeah.
Well, it sounds good. And like I said, this is going to be recorded and stay up on our YouTube channel so that we'll get the information out there that it's there. A lot of really great information, I think. Eli, did you have anything else on that list to ask?
I definitely, before we wrap up, wanted to address this last one, that if someone does have, questions that they weren't able to ask during the meeting, they think of it later, or, they weren't watching live, they watch it later when it's recorded, who can they contact with those questions, and what's the best way to get in contact with those people?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. To be honest with you, I would say that calling at the school office would be great for me. But it may not be reality that I could actually answer the phone because I will have to be doing things. But my email is always something that I know that as principals, so let's say that you have a child that maybe is in the Oakland district area, or the section of our district, then all principals have been advised that, we are available. We are going to communicate to the best of our ability as quickly as we can. I know sometimes my husband gets so frustrated because I'm like checking emails and responding back, but we typically try to do it within a 24-hour span. If we can't, then we explain why, but reaching out to any of the building principals, if any questions that you have or any concerns, those teachers that are option B, those are a great resource as well. Trying to attempt to contact them, and all of the option B kids will have those contacts. So if they have specific teachers, they're going to be able to have some kind of communication prior to, so they know how to reach them. But our email addresses are all the same. It's the same format. So once you get one, you just got to plug in the names for the different employees. But if you have an ESL question, Danielle Stewart, and she's soon to be doctor as well, but Danielle Stewart is who you would contact. She is, and I can give you that number over this, or if you want to, I don't know what you prefer, if you'd rather have it to where it's attached to it, or if you want me to say the numbers, I can. They're all on our school district website. And you could even call any of our offices and we'd give you the numbers for these people. But Brittany Turner, she's over special ed. Kyla Warnick, she's over the school psychs. And then Brian Swim, he is over those virtual, the C options, that one that's that third-party curriculum. So he kind of helps support them and to help them with anything they need. So just whichever one you'd like, and we can get those numbers out. But again, any of their emails are the exact same format, first.lastname@rsdk12.net. And you could even call any building and they'll direct you to any of those people. So
That sounds good. And then just any of the resource lists or any of the other stuff, just email them to me, and then we'll get them printed out and have lists here at the library as well. So.
Perfect. I'm good.
All right. I think that's all we have. Eli, anything else?
I always mute in case I have to cough or something. So I was scanning back through here, and it looks like we've kind of checked off all the stuff that we had here on our list. So unless you can think of anything else that you want to make sure everybody knows, or
Well, I mean, not necessarily that everyone in the world has, I mean, I don't care if they do, but I appreciate the two of you, trying to get this together. And even if, you know, if someone watches it later, the fact that you were trying to get people to where some type of message, just an opportunity to whether they share it, live feedback or just recorded, I think that's great. I think that that's kind of what we need, or parties who are not necessarily directly affiliated with our school district or with the different resources, and you're not trying to promote anything, you're just trying to help educate and get that information out. So thank you guys very much for doing that.
Oh, you're welcome. Our pleasure.
And thank you for joining us, because you have a lot of expertise and knowledge that we don't have that you
I thought
can
you were
bring
about
to
to
the
say I have a
table.
lot of information, and I'm like, I'm sorry. Yeah.
A lot of information in a good way. So
Oh, good.
I don't know, kind of extracurricular stuff. We've got some of that available, and just any other questions, library is a good place to ask questions too.
I could agree with that.
So little bit of a plug for ourselves too.
That's good. You gotta do it when you can.
All right. Well, thank you, Sarah.
All right. Thank you. You guys have a good night.